in promoting trade, commerce, and investment between India and USA. In continuation of that effort, today we are going to talk about bilateral investments between India and USA. And for that, we will be focusing more on a specific geographic location of USA, and that is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the 13 original states of America. And it is situated in the mid-Atlantic northeastern region of America, most densely populated and business-friendly state. If we talk of presence of the foreign companies, there are more than 5,000 foreign companies present in Pennsylvania. And more than 50 Fortune 500 companies are having their headquarters in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is going to offer many things to a businessman or an entrepreneur to have their businesses in those areas. And it has got large reservoirs of resources like availability of raw material, availability of skilled manpower, proximity to the ports and markets, and moreover, the supporting environment by the government, which helps entrepreneurs to start, grow, and prosperous in the Pennsylvania. We have many good eminent speakers who would take us through the advantage of setting up business in Pennsylvania. We have Mr. David Bryle, Deputy Secretary, Mr. International Business Development, Department of Community and Economic Development, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We have with us Mr. Suchit Bachali, CEO, Unilog Content Solutions. He will share his experience of being in Pennsylvania. And we'll be shortly joined by Mr. Danish Tamani, co-founder of ORAI. And we do have with us two India representatives of Pennsylvania Trade and Investment Office in India, Ms. Sushma Kanetkar and Shupriya Kanetkar. So I once again welcome all the speakers, and I look forward to a very interesting and engaging session on Pennsylvania, what it has available to offer to our investors. So without going into more details, I would like to invite Ms. Sushma Kanetkar to give us an overview about Pennsylvania and what it can offer to the Indian investors. Sushma, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bohra. Good evening to everyone in India, and good morning to our panelists in Pennsylvania. First of all, my kindest appreciation to Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, specifically to West India Council, President Mr. Bohra and Vice President Mr. Shah, Regional Director Ms. Sika. We really appreciate your support, and I'm glad to tell the participants that we have a very long and cordial relationship with Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, being the oldest office of any US state in India. Like Pennsylvania saw the opportunities in India, our leadership, and they set up this office way back in 2001. So we are very fortunate to be associated with Pennsylvania and proudly representing them. A lot of positive things have happened in last 20 years. When we set up the office every quarter, literally, I used to tell Pennsylvania companies about the opportunities in India, and I used to tell them, please look at Indian market and explore what it offers. Today, it is no more the case. The opportunities in India are so visible, so prominent, that all our companies know what market is the best market for them. They come to us to ask very specific assistance. We are looking for partnership with this and this company. Would you help us connect? Things have changed. When we started the office, Pennsylvania's exports to India were less than $100 million. Today, as of 2020, the exports from Pennsylvania has grown almost 10 times, over $1 billion US. Each year, our office assists about 100 Pennsylvania companies in Indian market. Similarly, India's exports to Pennsylvania has also grown. In fact, India exports more to Pennsylvania than Pennsylvania exports to India, but they have grown multifold. And we see a lot of positive interest among the Indian companies, not only just to export in the international market, but they are looking to have a local presence. And, in last 10 years, the kind of Indian companies establishing in Pennsylvania that we have seen, not only big and mid-sized companies, but also small companies starting at a very small, making a small beginning, and they have grown. This is a very good example. In last 3 years, our office is working closely with tech startups from India. And because Pennsylvania offers them very good, ecosystem. In fact, Pennsylvania is leading tech revolution in US at present, and again is becoming very preferred investment destination. One more portfolio of our office is assisting Pennsylvania colleges and universities. And I'm glad to mention that Indian students, they prefer Pennsylvania. In fact, amongst the international students in Pennsylvania, Indian students rank number 2 immediately after China. So that is another very attractive sector for bilateral cooperation. And Pennsylvania being a diverse economy, it is interesting to note that we assist companies from agriculture, food processing to aerospace, defense, from plastic to powder metallurgy, hardwood to life sciences, whether it's a medical device or some lab, equipment, and chemical companies. There is so much, and I feel the synergy we have that we must utilize and explore more and more opportunities. We have done many programs with the Indo-American Chamber, and I'm glad to do this digital session. If there was no pandemic, we would have had a big delegation led by our governor that we had slated, for 2021. But hope in the coming days we are able to do that, and things will improve. I won't take much time, but I want to mention that in the colonial times also, as President rightly mentioned, Pennsylvania, people always were attracted towards Pennsylvania, not only because of the religious freedom that was guaranteed by its founder, William Penn, but also the economic opportunities and lifestyles that were available to the state. And Pennsylvania has so beautifully transitioned into the modern economy, whether it's giving thrust to the life sciences or other tech sectors, robotics. Now we are all set and ready to lead the nation in this new century, 21st century. One thing I can tell our participants, that if you are thinking of expanding in North America, then Pennsylvania is a place for you to establish your company. Not only because of the strategic location and the diversity. I'm sure David really is going to give you much details, the overview, but our office is here to assist you and to help you to make your journey faster and easier. We will also have 2 success stories, and you will have a chance to ask them how they succeeded in US markets. So I won't take much of the time, and thank you, Mr. Bora, for giving me this opportunity, and I'm here to answer any questions during question answer session.
Thank you, Sushma. Thank you so much for giving an overview of Pennsylvania state. Now I would like to invite Mr. David Bryle. He will tell us more about activities of Department of Community and Economic Development, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I would like to give brief introduction of David. David is currently served as the Deputy Secretary for International Business Development, Department of Community and Economic Development, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Before joining Department of Community and Economic Development, David was working with Japanese company, Itachu, and also worked with Japan Education Ministry. He has also worked for Japan Embassy in Washington, D.C., focusing on trade and investment issues of Japan and the USA. David, after joining this Department of Community and Economic Development, has held various positions, and he has been constantly working on trade promotions and investment issues of attracting investment, including foreign direct investments. He has traveled to India many a times, and he is helping many Indian entrepreneurs to find their destination for business in Pennsylvania. So, David, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the West India Council of the Indo-American Chamber, President Bora, also Vice President Mr. Shah and Ms. Sika for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. We really appreciate, it helps to strengthen, our relations further with India. We have had as Sushma had mentioned, we see this as a ongoing journey. Pennsylvania was the first U.S. state to open a full-time trade and investment office in India back in 2001. So it's been 20 years, and we've seen nothing but growth in that 20 years. So it was a great decision, and we look forward to strengthening our ties with India. Supriya, I believe you're in control of the presentation, so I want you to go to the next one, please, just to give a little context. Right, so just to give you a piece of to show you sort of the scale of what we're talking about in terms of economy. So Pennsylvania, if it were a single nation, would be number 18, the 18th largest economy in the world. So it's a G20 country all in itself. I mean, obviously, we are, you can see here, we're bigger than Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, Thailand, for example. A big piece of this is certainly driven by our strategic location. So we're just in between, New York and Washington, D.C. A train ride from Philadelphia to New York is about 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's about 2 hours to Washington, D.C. on the other end. But from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh and everywhere in between, you're very close to that very dense population of the Northeast and then Midwest United States. So that drives that economic size, actually, and growth. And because of that, just go to the next one, please. You can see, so we're the 5th largest state in terms of population. About 13 million people. I know by Indian standards that seems very small, but by it's by American standards, we're number 5, and 5th largest economy. So of all the 50 states, so our unemployment rate right now is a little higher given the pandemic and the challenges thereof. But that's right about the national average. But we are seeing significant progress there as well as the numbers come down, and our rates have been relatively good within the U.S. and even in the pandemic. One thing Sushma had mentioned is the significant growth in imports and exports from India over the past 20 years. Since Sushma had mentioned, 20 years ago, we were looking at about $100 million in exports a year. So we've grown 10 times. And Indian exports to Pennsylvania have also grown significantly. So now we're looking at about, almost 2.5 billion a year going back and forth. And that number has been an upward trajectory. So, I think this will continue to see more and more progress there in our interconnectivity with India. And what do we export? Just to give you sort of a background here, Pennsylvania is actually, you see fuel as number 1. I think the image in the United States is maybe Texas is the energy juggernaut, but Pennsylvania is actually the largest net exporter of energy in the United States, given our location. And Pennsylvania has significant natural gas deposits. So we're actually the second largest natural gas producer next to Texas, although Texas is about, from a size perspective, is about 5 times larger than Pennsylvania, and we're also much closer to the we're closer to the major markets of the Northeast. So we the energy industry here is certainly helps to drive many things and makes manufacturing much cheaper, which is why we're also a leader in things like industrial machinery and aerospace as you go down the list there. Just if you go to the next one. And you can also see from what we import from India, starting with chemicals and pharmaceuticals. Now, Pennsylvania and our neighboring state of New Jersey are always number 1, number 2 in pharmaceutical manufacturing, depending on the year. So we have seen, there's a significant Indian entrepreneurial interest, certainly in the life sciences and in pharma, and because of and much of this is driven through one sort of our top universities. Perhaps many people know the University of Pennsylvania, Carnegie Mellon, and sort of these top schools. But those our pharmaceutical and life sciences industry are quite strong, and much of it, you can see there in the numbers reflect from India. We're also a huge importer of those products, which are then put into other products to sell to the wider North American market. So, Sushma, if you can go to the next one, please. Now, we have seen a significant growth in Indian companies in the U.S. To be frank, this is from our Dun & Bradstreet numbers, and we're actually going to see a significant rise in this just over the next, when we see the next ranking. So currently it talks about 45 Indian companies, over 3,000 jobs. If you go to the next list, Supriya, the next slide, here are the major importers, but just Infosys alone is going to, the previous slide does not reflect the 1,000 people that Infosys is now hiring in Pennsylvania. So we will see a significant rise there. But you can see, I think, in the Indian companies that are here, the tremendous diversity of industries. I mean, obviously, you see a lot of IT leaders, be it, WNS Denali or Genpact or Infosys. But you see, we have firms of all sizes, number one, and you'll hear from, for example, Suchit later on, and Unilog has had significant growth in sort of in the e-commerce space. But the Indian investment profile very much mirrors the Pennsylvania diverse economy as a whole. I mean, things like Caliber, which is a biopharma company from Hyderabad, to obviously to Pedialyte, to things like Tata. You're just it's Indian companies come of all different sizes and of all different industries, and the growth has been very steady over the past 20 years. And our leading industry, just to give you some background, the largest single industry actually would be the agribusiness. And this is just not the production of food. It is the food processing industry, the industrial machinery that goes into that industry, everything in combination makes agribusiness actually Pennsylvania's top industry. Now, the reason being also, again, our proximity to the major population centers of the Northeast US and Southern Canada. Because of that, it's when somebody, in order to feed New York or Washington or these major cities, they're not going to do it in those areas. It's too expensive. They're going to come here. And that is why we are such a center of food production. We manufacture quite a bit. We're one of the largest manufacturing states in the U.S. Certainly the metals industry, chemicals, plastics. We've seen a number of Indian plastics companies over the last few years coming to Pennsylvania. Again, that's also driven by our natural gas industry and the feedstock that allow, to supply the plastics industry. Pennsylvania also has that in manufacturing past, we were traditionally and still one of the top things like steel production. There's a significant metals and material sciences industry here. Again, driven primarily by universities and by our things like Penn State University, and materials research has driven a lot of that. But we continue to see growth in those areas as well. And as Sushma had mentioned, certainly one of our largest and growing industries is the life sciences industry, and there is significant Indian interplay in this industry. We are both from indigenous and foreign direct investment. We see tremendous international interest. Companies like GlaxoSmithKline, Merck, Johnson & Johnson, they all have major facilities here. We certainly see an evolving industry is the cell and gene therapy space. Now, cell and gene therapy is something that was initially developed at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and that a number of companies have grown up around that area. When you see these numbers, fourth in R&D expenditures, third in research testing, that means of the 50 American states, where do we rank? So we're fourth of all 50 American states in R&D expenditures, third in research and testing, fourth in bioscience VC, and you can see down the line. So our life sciences profile is actually quite strong. If, again, one of the top tech states, as Sushma and Supriya had mentioned, and we do have significant, we do have programs to sort of support early stage tech firms. You'll hear a bit later from Danish about that. But certainly there has been, we do see a tremendous tech environment, primarily in our two major cities of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And here's some figures to back that up. Philadelphia has the fourth largest startup culture, among major U.S. cities, significant R&D. Pittsburgh being sort of the center in the U.S. for robotics, artificial intelligence. Google has one of its largest campuses in Pittsburgh. Facebook. Pittsburgh also is the center of the growth of the autonomous vehicles market, or the research in the U.S. For example, Uber has their test track there. We have companies like Argo and Aurora, which are small companies that are now developing. They are companies that have grown in Pittsburgh. But certainly that is, the autonomous vehicle market is something that's growing quickly. And part of the reason for this is, one, a relatively lower cost of living in the Northeast U.S. We certainly, compared to our neighbors in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, is significantly less money, less tax burden. Average rent space tends to be less. And also on this slide, you see that UNESCO, put Philadelphia, because of our heritage as the sort of center of American democracy, as the first World Heritage City. So things in terms of a place to get started in the U.S. and have access to the major markets, we're well positioned, certainly. So one of the things I think we offer, we do have sort of a concierge service to work with companies as they grow here, through our office and through our international network, which, so Sushma and Supriya there in Bangalore. We have, we can work with companies from the ground up, and we will work with you on one, sort of customized financial assistance through programs we have available. We have, basically that can be a combination of grants, low interest loans, and finally, there's tax credits, tax abatements, and companies can earn by being here. Supriya, if you can go to the next one. we also help companies sort of set up in their entity setup. I know that's often confusing. How do you set up an entity in the US, and how do states sort of play into this versus the federal government? We can help you find real estate. If you're looking sort of how you need to hire a chemical engineer, and you're looking at Pennsylvania versus California versus Texas, we can get you that data. So I think through myself and then Supriya and Sushma and our teams, we can give you a lot of the necessary background research that can help you sort of move forward in the US. We certainly do work overtime to then connect you with things like colleges and universities, potential suppliers, real estate professionals, banks, et cetera, to help you sort of navigate what can often be a confusing start to how do I get set up in the US. And one thing we're also now particularly busy with, as companies, given the challenges right now, the pandemic and issues sort of that inhibit investment from a large scale, we are now working to connect companies from around the world with joint venture partners here in the US, here in Pennsylvania. If you let us know sort of exactly sort of the sweet spot of what you're looking for this size company with this sort of expertise, and we will help you to find a joint venture partner here. Or if you're looking for things like contract manufacturing, we can certainly connect you with contract manufacturing organizations. It's a way for you to enter the US market without that initial large scale investment. It allows you sort of step by step to enter the US market. And I think we're actually the first state to offer this service, and it's been very successful. Right now, our office is working with more than 20 companies internationally to find joint venture partners here in Pennsylvania. Again, these are some of the programs we have, and we can certainly work with you individually to customize a package. This is a combination, again, of grants and different zones that offer tax-free or tax credits to help companies get up and running. And finally, we have a network internationally. So when you're here in Pennsylvania, should you set up operations here, we can help you then connect to our contractors in Canada, for example, or across Europe, or throughout Asia. Sushma and Supriya are certainly our, they are our Indian reps, and but we have a network around the world that can help you not only get set up here, but then could help you internationally. From sell your products and services. So that's the key. You come to Pennsylvania, but you're also looking at the Mexican market, or you're looking at the German market. We can also help you there. So finally, I just want to say this is Sushma and Supriya's contacts. You can certainly contact them or myself anytime, and we can get you, get you the information you need to get up and running. Supriya, you're going to say something as well about.
Yes, maybe before I introduce Suchit and request him to speak, I would just quickly talk about the kind of companies we have worked with in last a couple of years, in fact. David rightly talked about Pennsylvania's diverse economy, and exactly the Indian companies that we have helped in last several years also range from IT, ITES to manufacturing companies. You just saw on the slide where we had companies like Genpact, Mindtech, or Denali Consulting, which is a WNS company now. We also have Wipro Infrastructure Engineering, which is one of the leading hydraulic cylinder manufacturers in the world. So companies have come to Pennsylvania not because of the incentives. Of course, if one gets the incentives, it is icing on the cake. Nobody is going to deny that. But they are coming to Pennsylvania because it makes business sense for them to be located in Pennsylvania. And why does it make business sense for companies to come to Pennsylvania? First and most importantly, the strategic location. In fact, one of the companies that you would have seen called Carborundum Universal, CUMI, which is a Murugappa Group company, they have their industrial ceramic divisions in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And when we were interacting with this company, they told us that from Pittsburgh, they can cater to the entire North American market as well as South American market. In fact, their presence in Pittsburgh has given them a leading edge over there. I mean, there are not many companies in this particular manufacturing, and it has given them an edge over their competitors. Some companies have come to Pennsylvania because of the vibrant ecosystem in innovation that we offer. In fact, Polyzion, a Gencrest company, it's a biotechnology startup that came to Pennsylvania, I think in 2018, and they are located in Pennovation, which is a Keystone innovation zone. On David's slide, you would have noticed that one of our programs is Keystone innovation zones. So they are located there because they are closely working with University of Pennsylvania. Also, in fact, you are going to hear from Suchit. Unilog came to Pennsylvania because of the talent that it could access because of the universities. In fact, Unilog is based in Philadelphia, which has more than 100 universities and colleges. The same was the story of Denali Consulting, which is now a WNS company. They are located in Pittsburgh. Because of UPIT and Carnegie Mellon, they chose the location to be in Pittsburgh. So you would see that the kind of companies have chosen Pennsylvania to be its location. And it's not just these large global Indian companies that we have worked with and we have assisted, but also smaller companies like JESCO, which is EPC consulting mainly into power and industrial equipment. They decided to come to Pennsylvania with just one person. And we offered them a J1 visa program, which is located in the East Stroudsburg University. And with just one person, they came to Pennsylvania. So it's not just that large companies we are helping and assisting, but also smaller companies, tech startups. The companies that feel that they need to be located in the United States to get access to the North American market, we are here to assist you. Today, in fact, we are going to present a combination of two companies, Unilog, which is an Indian global company now, and Suchit, who is the CEO of Unilog. And in fact, he is the driving force behind Unilog to take the company to Philadelphia. And now they are growing rapidly in the North American market. In fact, Suchit, I would leave that to you to make that announcement that the Indians would hear it first. And after Suchit, we would have another company, which is a tech startup, which students of Drexel University started it in the Drexel University's lab. And they have taken it now to raise, I think, $2.3 million seed capital. So Danish Tamani will speak after Suchit. May I now invite Suchit to talk about his journey from India to Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much, Supriya. Let me just see if I can bring up my screen here. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone for having me. I sort of think of myself as the poster child of the Pennsylvania office in India, because I met David, Supriya, Sushma. This year it'll be 10 years since we first started our journey. So Unilog is a software company. We are an e-commerce platform. We were headquartered in India. So in 1998, we were founded in Bangalore. We have offices in Bangalore and Mysore. We currently are about 800 employees globally. And our journey to PA started in 2011 when we first met with the PA India office, and then subsequently met with David. And everything that they have just shared with you um, was on a presentation deck, but for us, it's a lived experience. We lived through that experience. We benefited from all of the services that the PA India office provides. We benefited from all of the services that David and his team provide at the State Department level. And so it's been an amazing, amazing journey for us. So I'll walk you through exactly, what our thought process was as to why we picked Pennsylvania to begin with. First and foremost, like Supriya was mentioning, talent is what makes companies great, right? The people that you have, and then the talented people that you can find in Pennsylvania is just amazing. And it is not limited to tech, because the universities provide really great curriculum just in about every subject, right? So you have engineers, you have biotechnologists, you have software developers, you have civil engineers that come out of these amazing universities, and they're really talented people. So the talent pool that is available, and I have two logos here that are not Pennsylvania logos. There's Princeton and Rutgers that are actually New Jersey, but then Princeton's an hour away, and Rutgers is right across the bridge from us in Philadelphia. So the pool of talent that is available, if you're in Philadelphia or in the greater Philadelphia area, or in Pennsylvania, is amazing. And that also extends to regions like Pittsburgh, where you have Carnegie Mellon, University of Pittsburgh, etc. So truly a world-class education system. Two out of these universities on my screen are Ivy League schools. So Penn and Princeton are both part of the Ivy League. So really tremendous amount of talent that is available. So when we were thinking about, hey, where do we want to be as an Indian company, where do we set up our office? Pennsylvania became an obvious choice for this particular reason, because we knew we would need bright, talented people to work for Unilog in the US, and Pennsylvania just became the obvious choice. So that's one of the first things that come to mind in terms of why we moved here. We're also surrounded by some amazing companies, right? So talent, obviously, if you're looking at talent pool coming straight out of the university system, that's one thing. We also have a lot of talented people that are moving across companies. And so again, for someone like us, we just knew that there were a lot of interesting, cool companies that are in the space, in the area. I have good friends that are, Rudy Carson, great entrepreneur, South Asian origin, came to the U.S., poster child of, the American success story, sold Connexa to IBM for over $1 billion. There's a lot of other companies that are not just tech, right? I mean, you have Aramark, you have AmerisourceBergen, which is in healthcare, you have Unisys, you have Instamed, also healthcare. So you have a lot of companies, and they offer, again, a great ecosystem. So truly, when you think about Pennsylvania, the thing that you want to think about is getting the talent, getting the people, but then also getting plugged into an ecosystem where companies have really built a lot of momentum for commerce and for businesses, right? So that's something that's very important. The support that you've heard, again, when you hear about Keystone Innovation Zone as a tax credit program, we've benefited from that every year. Every year, the Pennsylvania State Department looks at our research and development cost and subsidizes it. Every year, we get a check for over $100,000, depending on how much of R&D we have done, but we get that support. And you would think, what does it look like? How do you actually get it? It's a very streamlined process. I mean, Pennsylvania has done a really good job of making the application process very streamlined. It's very transparent, and it works every year. Obviously, the work that David and his team do at the CDEC, that's pivotal to helping companies like ours. When we first came, I mean, David went out of his way, his office went out of his way to introduce us to everyone, right? Plugged me and Swami, who was our CTO. We're just two guys that went from Mysore to PA, and he plugged us into the ecosystem. I even today, 10 years later, we are working with the same set of people. We're still working with the lawyers that he introduced us to. We're still working with the office space. We're still in that same office park that he introduced us to. So the connections that they give you, and you could do it on your own, and that's one way to do it. And I'm an entrepreneur, and I like to do things on my own. But man, they make it easy. They really roll out the red carpet. They take care of you. They connect you to the right people. And even 10 years later, like I said, we're benefiting from this. And the one other thing I will mention, and of course we're talking about Pennsylvania, but one other thing I would mention is if you're considering just generally countries at large, I mean, we recently benefited from the PPP, the Paychecks Protection Plan. That's a federal program. It's not state-driven, but it's a federal program. The United States federal government gave out Paychecks Protection to all companies, trillions of dollars. And again, a very streamlined process. And when COVID hit, we were able to apply through our local lender. We were able to apply. We got 3 months of payroll. And it was extremely streamlined, and that money was from the time the bill was signed, from the time legislation was signed in the Senate and at the president's office to the time we actually got the money in the account, I think it was about 6 weeks. That is incredible. And so when you think about geographies in general, whether you want to go to Europe, if you're thinking of international expansion, just United States, I can tell you, is an entrepreneur's dream. It is the best place to do business because they have a very, US has a very pro-business approach, and we've benefited from that. When we moved here in 2011, there were 2 of us. I personally moved here in 2014 with my family. My daughter's 9 years old, and she moved here when she was 3. So she goes to school here. She's been very well acclimated to North American lifestyle. But when we moved here, it was 2 people. We have grown tremendously. The India office has grown because our US business has grown in general. So when we were, I think, 400 people 10 years ago, we're now 800. In the US, we've grown to almost 70 people. And I'll talk a little bit about, how that growth has been tremendous. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is we're announcing this at 9 a.m. this morning. We closed as an Indian company. We acquired a US company. We acquired a Pennsylvania business on Friday. So a true success story. And of course, I don't want to take credit for it, but this ecosystem that we have been surrounded by has helped us to go from an Indian company to a global company. And the way we went to being a global company was because of the resources that were provided to us by the Pennsylvania state. So today it's really, it's just coincidence that I'm here talking about this, but it's really a proud moment for an Indian company like ours to go out, set up shop in Pennsylvania, and then buy a Pennsylvania company. We acquired them on Friday, all cash transaction, and we'll be releasing the press notes this morning. So that really, tells you about the opportunities that are available to you. And the last thing I want to talk about is culture, right? Where we live, there's a lot of South Asians. So when you think of moving to the Pennsylvania area, there's a very, very vibrant Indian-American community. I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Indiaspora. So the Indian-American community is really vibrant. We also have Thai, the Indian entrepreneur, Indus entrepreneur. So the Thai network is also very active. So Thai has an entrepreneurship program, doesn't require for you to be in tech. It could be any industry, but we can again help you plug into the network. So there are a lot of successful Indian Americans that are in the area, and our homes are open to you, our offices are open to you, and would love to support you as you make your transition. And culturally, because there's so many South Asians and Indian Americans in the area, there's a lot of benefits to that, right? I mean, we have a local temple, there's mosques, there's Navratri and Dandiya and Garba, and everything is there. Really good Indian food. So you should take, and I'm actually a member of the Philadelphia Cricket Club, and we actually play cricket. So you may think that the US there's no cricket, but that's not true. Philadelphia is the home of cricket in the US. So as a cricket fan myself, I was able to find games. I still end up playing 4 to 5 games every season. So we really enjoy living here. I've enjoyed raising my daughter, goes to a very nice school close by. So all in all, I think it's a great opportunity to not just set up your business, but also to move and to build your organization. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you. Happy to take any questions, and I'm sure Danish has his perspective from a startup lens. Thank you for having me.
May I now invite Danish Tamani to talk about the journey of Orai and his own experience of working with Pennsylvania team.
Thank
Danish,
you.
over to you.
Let's give Suchit a big round of applause for a great presentation. I think he covered a lot of what is the beauty of Pennsylvania, of Philadelphia, especially someone who is coming from outside. And it's the same story with me. I was born in Pakistan. I grew up in Tanzania, and I came to US for college. When you graduate from high school, you want to go for your higher ed, and US has one of the best colleges. So I came to Philadelphia, went to Drexel University because they have this beautiful co-op program where you study 6 months, you work 6 months, study 6 months, work 6 months. And that's what I did. And after graduating, all while I was about to graduate, I had the idea for this app, which is a public speaking app. And the idea came because I was a mechanical engineer. I never thought I needed to improve on my presentation skills. This thing that I'm doing right now, speaking to you, I didn't think I had to become good at it as an engineer. As an engineer, I thought I just go to the office, open my AutoCAD and design stuff or SolidWorks and design parts for my job, and that's it. But whether you are a mechanical engineer, a salesperson, an executive or student, whoever you are, you need to improve on your communication skills. And that is where the idea came from. And that is how we ended up creating Orai, which is a public speaking app. It's available on the App Store. Anyone can go on their mobile, download Orai. It comes with a 7-day trial. And what does Orai do? It helps you overcome the fear of public speaking. But the way it does it is by giving you this content of theory of what is good and what is bad, but also gives you this safe space that you can practice, and it gives you feedback automatically, like a real speech coach would give you feedback. And that's how we came up with the idea. It's on the phone, and I'll show you exactly how it looks. I'm actually recording myself while I'm giving my own pitch. So we can see, I'm gonna hit stop. I'll give my speech a title. This was my elevator pitch. And it takes around 10 seconds to process. But once it's done, Orai then gives you feedback. So I got a score of 66%. My energy, my pitch could have improved a little bit. Okay. I sounded confident, only 1.2 filler words. My sentences were too long, so I need to work on that. And that was the filler word that I used, my So that's how the app actually works. And the idea came, as I mentioned, because of my own personal fear. And I didn't start this by myself. I had a team. And my team member, my co-founders, Paritosh and Asim, both of them are from India. We both met at Drexel University. This is Asim on the left-hand side of me, and this is Paritosh. Paritosh is from Indore, Asim is from Nagpur. We all were at Drexel, we met together, and we're like, all of us have this fear of public speaking. Because when we were growing up, we didn't learn how to present confidently. And when you come to the US, it becomes even more scary when you're applying for jobs or when you are going to networking events. It is scary, especially if English is a second language for you. For me, my first language is Urdu. So doing this was actually very hard, and we all felt that. So together we're like, we can build something. And that is the kind of access being in the US, and more specifically being in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, allowed us to do. Because when we are starting off, we had so many different grants we could apply for. Through our college, through different universities, we were applying for business plan competitions. And that's how we were able to get off the ground. Because if you're a student, you're a first-time entrepreneur, you have no company, you have no sales, investors don't just give you money like that. So you have to really hustle. And so we won $500 at one competition, $1,000 here, $10,000 here, and we allowed ourselves to then build our app and get some traction, get some users, get some early customers. And that's what allowed us to get even bigger and bigger. So after you do your grants, then the next thing we graduated to was an accelerator program. And if you look at startup accelerators, the two top in the world are known as Y Combinator and Techstars. And we have one Techstars in Philadelphia. This is in partnership with Comcast, which is a major corporation in Philadelphia. So we were accepted to that program. Again, if we were not in Philadelphia, we may not have got that opportunity to be part of that program, where that program gave us mentorship, they gave us access to customer base, they gave us even $120,000 to just kick us off the ground. And that allowed us to hire our first Philadelphia full-time person who graduated from Carnegie Mellon, also a PA university. So getting the access to that talent, everything, anything you need to start something from scratch, literally like us, scratch, without money, without customers, without expertise, without talent, we managed to do that. And fast forward 3.5 years, I was showing my screen, we were nominated in Forbes 30 under 30, which is a big thing under the category of education for this year, 2021. This is a category where they select around 30 or so people who are under 30, and all of us are, of course, under 30, because this is the first thing we did after college without doing any job. We managed to get in here. So more exposure. We also have made use of some of the R&D tax credits that Suchit was talking about. If you're in certain regions inside Pennsylvania called the KIZ regions, KIZ innovation zones, you can get some tax credit back for expenses on R&D. And as a startup working on novel AI technologies, we are spending a lot on engineers and talent to be able to develop some of those things. So we managed to get that as well. And lastly, a story I want to share before I end this thing is, you also have a great family. These people, I've met Supriya, I've met David many, many times. These people are there as your champions. I remember once I was stuck in Spain, right? My bag got stolen, my passport got stolen, and now to come back to the US, I needed a US visa, because we all need a US visa to come to the US back. And what David and the team did for me was call up the US Embassy in Madrid and tell them, hey, we have this Pennsylvania entrepreneur, please kickstart their process, make it fast. So I didn't have to be stuck in Spain for another month waiting to get my appointment for the embassy. I got the appointment the next day. These are the kind of people who you will be associating yourself with if you come to Pennsylvania, versus going to, let's say, California or New York, where you'll be So many people. Here you are a small knit of people, good family, good network. And with that, if you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. Don't forget to try out our app. If you're pitching to investors, it's a great way to practice your pitches. And if there's any questions, you can use the chat below.
Great. Thank you so much, both Suchit and Danish, for sharing your stories. I'm sure they are inspiring, and the ISCC members who are listening to these stories today would definitely take inspiration from that to grow. I already have several questions here, and the first was,
We'll just see if something comes in the.
yeah, shall I read the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, what measures are in place to increase the cultural intelligence and understanding of each other? Maybe, Suchit already, his last slide, which talked about how the South Asian community is growing in Philadelphia, talked about it. But maybe, David, do you want to respond to this?
No, I think that, as Suchit had mentioned, from a cultural inclusion, if I understood the question correctly, how, I think certainly in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, there are large South Asian communities that, have built that sort of, over the past, 30, 40 years, have built things like a cricket culture, which, Suchit had mentioned, these, or, various sort of South Asian focused tech groups, or like Thai or cultural groups. I mean, we see them actually, in around the major centers, be it, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg as well. We've seen significant growth in the South Asian population, and I think that's something that has been a natural outgrowth, is that community support piece. Suchit, I want to know, you may be able to add more of a sort of a day-to-day thing as a champion cricket player there. Yeah.
Well, it's the friendship between the people is well known, right? I mean, we've Indian Americans have been influential and impactful in the U.S. For many years. In fact, today, if you look at it, Indian Americans, I would say South Asian in general, are one of the top two per capita income, ethnic groups within the U.S. So we have grown as a community inside of the U.S. And in fact, I'll tell you a story which really is about this cultural connect. So the government, federal government, released a Diwali stamp for, I think, 5 years ago. It was the first time Indian Americans lobbied for the United States Postal Service to launch a stamp commemorating Diwali. And I went to the launch party, and it was hosted by, at the time, Vice President Biden. And so I was fortunate to go to his residence, have dinner with him, and meet with him. And he said something very, very interesting, which I think resonates about this cultural aspect really deeply. He says, when you move to the US, is the only country that you can become American and still hold on to your identity as a cultural identity. So you can migrate to Germany, you'll never be a German. You can migrate to Japan, you'll never be Japanese. You can migrate to England, you'll never be English. You can migrate to America and you can become an American. And you can stay American while continuing to recognize your cultural identity as an Indian, as a Sri Lankan, as a Pakistani. That is special about this country. And that's why when people like us move and entrepreneurs move and build their businesses, it's so important to not just embrace your new identity as an American, but also continue to stay close to your roots. And so from a cultural perspective, I mean, there's just so much happening in the Indian American, South Asian community. There's just a lot of stuff that's good and that's fun and enjoyable.
Actually, Suchit, just one point you made. Indian Americans are actually #1 in terms of the immigrant groups. Because of the commitment to education and hard work, I think Indian entrepreneurs and in terms of the income piece, Indian Americans are actually the top earning immigrant group in the US. Yeah. Supriya, do you want to go on to the second question?
Yeah, we have the second question. Our interest is to explore opportunities in building relationships with academic institutions, especially in the STEM program. How can we go about it? Yeah, I think maybe Sushama can take the question so that she can explain how we can assist them.
Yeah, sure. Are you all? If you are already working with, any American universities, please let us know. And if you could send to our office your profile of your consultancy and what you do and how is your reach, we will have your inquiry in our trade list. And whenever we are connecting with our universities and colleges who are interested in recruiting the students or who want to offer online learning programs, we can include your profile in those, when we provide the list to them. We cannot guarantee that it will be their and your business decision, but we will put forth your profile to the interested universities and colleges. So please feel free to send your profile with your interest and we will have it as an inquiry. I have similar question. One company says that they have started exporting, recently they have started exporting control panels to Siemens Industries in New Kingston, PA. And they want to know about how can they connect more industries who are willing to import from India. So unfortunately, we do not have the database of the companies who are interested in importing from India. But as Pennsylvania has set up our office, there is a commercial section in Indian Embassy in US and even in all consulate generals of India in USA. So if you approach them, they may be able to give you some contacts who would, because usually consulate also receives a lot of inquiries. So they may be able to guide you and suggest you how you could approach them.
Should we take the other question?
There is also one question somebody is asking, are there new opportunities for business in home textiles, especially in curtains and upholstery? Again, if I have to give a general answer, yes, because India is exporting the kind of items you have mentioned. Whether I will have contacts of these importers, the answer is no, but I can suggest if you go through some of the programs or delegations or trade fairs organized by Indian export promotion councils, you will be able to get in touch with the importers, because usually Indian export promotion councils, they conduct trade missions as well as conduct exhibitions, and they encourage the exporters to export. And of course, US is a big market for that. You see already between US and India, India has a trade surplus with US. So already Indians are exporting there. One more question.
No, that's it. Yeah. I think in the interest of time, we would now, I would request all of you to connect with Rakhi's office and forward the questions to us so that we will take them one by one. Over to you, Rakhi.
Thank you, Supriya. It was indeed an exciting an interesting panel discussion, and we really enjoyed Mr. Suchit and Danish experiences, that how state of Pennsylvania and the Department of Community and Economic Development helped them to grow in Pennsylvania. Now I would request our Vice President, Mr. Saurabh Shah, to propose a vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and participants.
Thank you, Mr. Vora. Good evening and good morning, friends. Warm greetings from India. It is indeed my privilege and honor to present a vote of thanks on the conclusion of this beautiful digital session, which has given us so much of information, insight into setting up business in Pennsylvania. Friends, we are indeed grateful to our associate partner, Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. The trade and investment corridor has witnessed substantial movement in the last few years, and the credit goes to the great work, the commendable work, which is done by Pennsylvania Trade and Investment Office in India. Thanks for partnering with us and showcasing Pennsylvania to our participants today. Thank you, Mr. David Brell, Ms. Shushma Kanetkar, and Ms. Supriya Kanetkar for collaborating with us, and we look forward to indeed a more closer engagement and partnership in the years to come and the times to come. My heartiest gratitude to Deputy Secretary, International Business Development, Mr. David Brell, who has taken his precious time out today to share details about Pennsylvania. Mr. David, I think the ecosystem that you have showcased today will certainly encourage many Indian companies and entrepreneurs who are participating today to certainly consider this as a future destination for their investment plan. Thank you so much for this descriptive details that you shared with us during your presentation. I also extend my hearty gratitude to Mr. Suchit, Chief Executive Officer, Unilog, for presenting such a strong case study, which was quite compelling and convincing. And Suchit, heartiest congratulations once again on the news that you've just shared on the takeover, and wish you all the very best in your future business endeavors on behalf of the Chamber and on my personal behalf.
Thank you.
I also would like to thank Mr. Danish Tamani, co-founder and CEO, ORAI, who has started his organization in Pennsylvania and have led the way. Wishing him all the very best in the years and the times to come. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our regional president, Mr. Pankaj Bora, ISCC West India Council, for initiating such program, which is aligned with the role of our chamber as a catalyst to facilitate more interaction and business transactions between India and US. Thank you, Mr. Bora, for designing and suggesting this program. I appreciate the dedication and commitment of our secretariat, led by Ms. Rakhi Sikka, Regional Director, and Mr. Vishnu. Thank you for your efforts and your sincere dedication to make this program a great success. Now, before I formally end the program, I would like to inform the dignitaries and the participants that we're going to come to you with a very nice program on 23rd of February, next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. India time, and that is going to be focused on the education sector. We will soon share details with one and all. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who have taken time and who have interest to explore their journey and their entry in Pennsylvania to enhance and grow their business. Thank you one and all. It is all of you who encourage us to come up with new programs, and thank you for being with us and for supporting us in all our activities. With this, and with the permission of the dignitaries present here, I would like to conclude this program. Thank you one and all. Have a wonderful day and a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. Thank you, Mr. Bora.
Just wanted to make one small announcement. We have been getting a lot of messages on the chat box requesting for the slides of David and Suchit. So we will be sharing the slides with all the participants today, along with the recording link on YouTube, so that you don't miss out on anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank
Thank
you
you.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Michelle. Thanks, Rosa. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.